Yerushalmi in Brochus that says, "Im ein das havdalah min ayin." If not for das, how does one distinguish? And therefore, you make the bracha of havdalah on Saturday night in the Shmona Esrei during the bracha of Atachanin Li'odam Das, because the rabbis say, "Im ein das havdalah min ayin." If not for das, how can one distinguish? But wait a minute, is it distinction or is it unity? The thing is, if you know a little math, you realize that there's no way to know distinction unless we first know similarity, and it does not work the other way around. To the extent I know how we're similar, I can tell how we're different. But if I know how we're different, I won't know how we're similar. Okay.
There's a lot of deep things. Amazing.
Maybe we should let Rabbi Sutton's finish up the night with some.
No, but now it's a discussion. I have a few things I'd like to say, but
Gedalia, we hope you come back in January.
Beyond the words,
be sure.
What's going on here is that we're here and we're now. A few minutes ago it was here and now. And a few minutes from now it's going to be here and now. There's nothing else any time except here and now. So being in the here and now, what we started with tonight is it's an expansive thing. It's not just a moment that keeps passing I can't catch up to. It's a now that's greater and it embraces us. And maybe a little bit of what Gedalia says is when the higher soul comes in, usually it embraces the lower soul, and it can't exist in this world. So it takes but we want to be able to have that as much as we can to open ourselves up. What happens with Avraham Avinu at the beginning of the Pasha is he's in an incredible state of dveikus, which can be translated ecstasy. It's the third day of the Bris Milah, and Hashem, he's experiencing something of the highest level that he's ever experienced before. Vayera alav Hashem. Hashem appears to him, and he sees himself in a way, as you said so beautifully, the objective vision of myself. By the way, at the beginning it says, Lech lecha, go to yourself. And the end of the verse is, El ha'aretz asher ar'eka, which doesn't mean the land that I will show you. It's the land that I will show you, where I will show you you. Ar'eka is I will show you you. So there's a lot here of that he wants us to be able to see ourselves, not through the subjective, judgmental little me, or the left brain that doesn't understand who I am, but through the right brain, who is the connection to the higher consciousness. The left brain has to give way sometimes to the higher vision that Hashem gives us of ourselves. We can call it that Hashem gives us of ourselves, or that He gives us the potential that we can truly see ourselves in the higher form. Anyway, Avraham is what I like to describe as in a symbiotic relationship with Hashem. Incredible dveikus, the uniting with the source, the loss of subject-object distinction. And then he says, Adonai, al tavor na me'al avdecha. Hashem, wait a second. Don't go away. Al tavor na me'al avdecha. Don't go away. It's the original call waiting. Wait for a second. I'm going to go like this and be with these guests and welcome guests. I mamish have to have guests. It's the whole thing that it's brought in is it was like so hot that nobody could walk, and yet Hashem, I need some guests, so Hashem had to bring guests instead of making it cooler. Whatever it's all crazy. But my point here is only one thing. This is the most amazing experience. What is this? This is now taking this incredible experience of being close to my source, of joining with my source, of turning away from the world, going away from the world to connect to my higher source, like we said before, and coming down now, turning away and being like that source. It's the difference between being with God and being like God. And in a sense, Avraham learned this from Hashem himself. You could have mamish just been infinite and never made a world. But you decided to make a world that you could give your love to, Olam Chesed Yibaneh. So it must mean on a very deep level that you want a world to exist where you exist and you manifest within that world, within the parameters of that world. So that's what I'm going to do. Even though there's nothing that I like better is to stay with you in eternity. But I want to bring eternity into the moment. I want to do something to be like you, to emulate you. And therefore the Gemara says, Gadol Hakbalat Achnasat Orchim Mit Hakbalat Pnei Shechina. Greater, the pshat is, greater is the receiving of guests in this world than the communion with the divine. And within the context of the Gemara there, that's how it has to be translated. But and in a sense it could be saying Judaism has to be outward oriented, and the relationship of the prophet now is being minimized and put in the background, and the foreground is to have a Torah teaching that's outward oriented in order to maintain certain. We can't have people going off and being with God. We have to have people within the community. What I see here is behind that is that there's the mem in the verse, it's in the expression is great, not as greater is this than this, but the mem would be than, but great is this that flows from this. Gadol Hachnasat Orchim, me, that's me that comes from Hakavalat Pnei Shechina. Mamish, that comes from the deepest relationship with Hashem. That you can constantly go back and recharge and then come back and be like God in this world. Recharge and go back. Why the rabbis said it the way they did in the context that they did, that this is better than this, is they were giving over a certain, they were telling, whatever, however it needs to be explained. So my explanation is that they were saying there's going to be a switch now from an internal Judaism to a Judaism that's communal and sharing. But chas v'shalom, God forbid to lose this. It has to go into the background, and it has to be on the individual level. But it has to be there. And so what I'm holding now is that our generation is a generation that wants to now rebalance this. And for sure we want to mamish be with each other in a very deep way, but we need to learn something about how to connect to that higher level that we've been talking about tonight. And one very, very sweet example of that higher level is a halacha on Shabbat, that if you have what's called a kumkum of mayim, a hot water, and it's on the fire, there's a fire under here. It's a kli rishon. And I have like a spigot here, or I want to pour it, but it's easier to do it with a spigot. As long as there's what's called a kilua, a flow, from this to my cup, this is the kli rishon, because a definition of a kli rishon is a first degree vessel, is that its walls are hot. And so therefore even the heat tends to dissipate, but the walls of the kli are hot, so it keeps returning in on itself, and it's maintaining and even getting hotter. Whereas a kli sheni it could be the same. So what happens is when I'm pouring from this to this, as long as it's the kiluach, a miklachat is a shower, because it's water flowing down. The kiluach is the flow of water. As long as it's flowing, this is a kli rishon. It becomes bato to the kli rishon. It has no independent existence. The moment I close it, it becomes a kli sheni, because it doesn't have the quality of the walls being hot. Even though it could be as hot as this is for the first few seconds, but after a few milliseconds, it'll always start cooling off, whereas this doesn't cool off. That's how I understand the halacha of kli sheni, that this is a kli rishon while it's being poured into, but it immediately becomes a kli sheni the minute it's over. A prophet is a kli rishon as he's receiving prophecy. He doesn't have a separate self. That's the devekus we're talking about. The moment that the prophecy ends, he comes back and he says,